Hey everybody, it's Ken Davenport here. Welcome back to the Producer's Perspective Live. Tonight, Olivier Award-winning playwright of the Mountaintop, the book writer of Tina, the creator of the brand new hit series on Starz, P-Valley. She is Katori Hall, and she's up next. Hit that theme song, Mary.
We're getting the band back together, getting the boys who rock again. We're getting the band back together in the midst of a place that remembers when some punks from the suburbs lit the sky with too much reverb. We're getting the band back together.
You know, I gotta tell you, I was just watching that theme song and watching those clips, and we have had some Well, I'm a little pandemic crazy tonight. I'm going to admit it. It's been raining for 2 days here in New York City. We've been out for like 8 months. I'm going a little nuts. And I was just watching that theme song, and I was thinking we've had as good of a time as one can on this thing. So welcome, everybody. Thanks so much for watching. The great times will continue tonight with our guest, Katori Hall, in just a few moments. Hello, all of you watching. The reason my head is turned is I'm looking at my chat. Welcome, Alan Greenstein from Maryland. I love your statement. Hello, Ken. I am from Maryland. That's pride in your home state, Alan. I just love it. I didn't even ask you where you're from, but I'm just glad. Thank you for doing it. Oh, and Wayne still thinks my hair is on point. My hair is a different color than when this whole thing started, which just shows you what a pandemic will do. For those of us who work in the theater industry, that's right. This is what happens when they shut your business down. I don't see investment bankers' hair going white during this. The lawyers, their hair is still the same color. Not me. Thanks so much to all of you for being here. For those of you watching on replay, I always forget this, and Mary always reminds me because she's very good at that. For those of you watching on replay, please, thank you for being here. Please, thank you. Thank you for being here. We know so many of you watch these after the fact because we actually get so much international traffic and you're all sleeping right now. So thank you for joining us on a replay. For those of you who don't know, this is episode number 76. Trombones led the big pandemic parade. We have done 76 of these suckers and we're still going. So thank you for watching. If you want to watch any of the other ones, go back, watch the replays, and they're great. I actually watched like 3 over the weekend just to say, what the heck was I talking about? So go check it out. We've got some amazing people. And it is this crazy theatrical time capsule right now. That's what's very interesting is to go watch episode number 3 or number 4, go watch like Sierra Boggess, we had Janine Tesori. Go watch all these people and realize where we were in this pandemic timeline and the Broadway shutdown timeline and what's happened since, what has not happened since. So speaking of, we had some challenging news this week or this last week. We all knew this was coming, but Broadway officially announced that it would be shut down through May 30th. May 30th. It's going to be a little later than that. I think we all know it's going to be later than that. But that's the official date that you can get refunds or exchanges. To be honest, as if any of you had a ticket for like January 17th. Let's face it. I don't think any of you did. But if you did, you can get a refund now. And then we'll see when we come back. Okay. Don't forget, as I often do, if you have questions for tonight's guest, Katori Hall, please throw them in the chat. And if we figure it all out, and if you respond to your Facebook Messenger when we do this, we may bring you on live to ask your question live. So if you do have a question, throw it in the chat. Mary will reach out to you. Okay. Last week's episode, by the way, fantastic one. Anais Mitchell was here from Hadestown. Go watch that one. Fantastic. She's got a new book featuring the lyrics of her lyrics in Hadestown, which, by the way, is not just a lyric book. It's her description of why things were cut. It's an amazing book, including a lot of cut lyrics. And she told us last week about stuff that she didn't want to be cut, but that she admitted was even better as a result. So go check that book out. We'll throw a link to that book into the chat. Mary will do that for you as well. Don't forget, we're here for the Actors Fund. Again, Broadway shut down for longer than we thought, which means there are a lot of people a lot of people that could use your help. And remember, as it says right there, the Actors Fund is for everyone in entertainment. It is not just for actors. There are theater makers all over the world that are out of work right now, from designers to stage hands to stage managers to treasurers in the box office. There's a lot of folks that could really need some help right now. So do your best to help them out through charity, or we started a theater maker side hustle directory. There are theater makers out there that work in real estate, that are graphic designers. Hire one. Hire a theater maker if you need a job done. Okay, we've got a great lineup coming up in the next couple of weeks. We got John Logan, Red, and Moulin Rouge coming next week. It's like writer month here. Katori tonight, John next week, and then we have actor Cheyenne Jackson after that. This has been our October guest as we usher in Halloween. A bunch of A-listers we have, but let's get to the A-lister we have tonight. Tonight, please welcome to the live stream, Ms. Katori Hall.
Hey, how you doing?
Have some fun. How are you?
I'm good. Your hair is on point.
Oh, thank
better
you.
than my hair. I have to hide my hair under my pandemic hats.
I hear that. Listen, I have my hat's like right over there. If you go back and watch the live stream for the first, like I wore a hat. There's a period I was like, oh, my hair. And then for the next like 3 weeks, I wore a baseball hat every single day because my roots were a showing.
You know, we got to do what we got to do.
What can you do? So seriously, the most, and you're a writer, so you know this better than I do, but those words that mean more than anything these days, 3 words. How are you? So how's it going for you?
I am blessed. I am embracing that, even in the midst of so much destruction, so much death. I have been able to find a lot of light in family, a lot of light in just dreaming too. I do have a lot of hope. I carry a lot of hope in my heart at all times. So that is what's keeping me going. Even though it's some days, I'm just telling you, it's some days.
So listen, that's usually one of the last questions I ask people, but since you brought it up, I mean, I can see the hope writ large across that smiling face of yours right now. So how in the midst of everything that we faced so far in 2020 and that we're still facing every day, and we probably will face until this election and after, what do you do to stay positive and stay hopeful?
I feel as though it's something that was ingrained into me from my parents. I come from the American South, and our history has been very heavy. And I have always dealt with that inheritance as a Black woman growing up in that particular part of the world. And so knowing that, you have to kind of laugh to keep from crying a lot. And so from the moment, I was able to kind of recognize that, there are some people in this world who treat me differently based on something that I cannot control. Well, they ain't got nothing to do with me. They got something to do with them. So I had this way of just shifting perspective in that regard, and knowing that you actually have way more control over your thoughts, your actions, and not somebody else's. And so I strive to be positive. I strive to make sure that somebody else's rainy day doesn't make my sunny day rainy. And even when I do have rainy days, I try not to rain on other people's parades. So I really feel as though it's that thing of just being a Black person in America and having to deal with very complicated things on the daily, even from the point of, when you're a child. And so that positivity, it has to be intact. Otherwise you would give up. I would have gave up years ago,
And let's just stay on that subject right now, given all that's happened in the world and the movement and the awareness, the hopeful awareness in our industry, as well as the world. Are you hopeful about change right now in the theater industry and the entertainment industry, given everything that's happened in the last few months? Do you think things will get better?
I do think things will get better. But it's unfortunate that everything has had to happen in order for people to finally acknowledge, oh, we haven't been doing this correctly.
Right.
You know, we haven't been sharing the resources. We haven't been, you know, from Broadway down to audience development, been thinking about communities outside of white communities. We haven't been thinking about justice, point blank, period. You know, not only in the theater, but in politics, in business, in everything, in the social contract that being in America, being in the world as a human being demands. So for me, even though there's hope, it's intertwined with a lot of frustration.
Yeah.
Like, this should have been happened. We should have been talking about this. We should have been thinking about how to diversify our stages beyond just the stages, and thinking about who are the gatekeepers and you know, from the artistic directors to the producers. So I do think that we are in a time of where there's this hot spotlight on all the problems. The pause, the pandemic, the protests have all kind of come together and made this tornado where all the underbelly of all this supremacy is kind of just being ripped out and exposed. And hopefully, you know, when you shed light on it, on things like bacteria and viruses, you know, they tend to go away or you know, dissolve. But the unfortunate thing about the system is that it's so pervasive, it's so stubborn. I'm like, we've been fighting this for hundreds and hundreds of years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that thing of, can theater, as this very important platform and medium in terms of showing empathy and demanding empathy for people who don't necessarily always have a voice. I just hope that we're able to move forward with light and love and understanding. But I'm hopeful, even though I'm very excited.
So you talk about growing up in the American South,
Mm-hmm.
and how did you find the theater? How did you realize?
You're calling me. Hey, Intare, I'll be done in a minute. Okay, go tell Papa.
How old is that little munchkin?
He's 6.
I love it. I love it.
Don't tell me now. You should tell me earlier.
Oh, a big FaceTime with my wife about my 2.5-year-old's poop. So it's all good.
It doesn't stop. I've heard that it keeps on going past 6,
Yeah.
beyond.
So tell me how you found the theater. Like, where did you discover it, and when and why did you decide like this was the thing for your hopeful spirit?
It was just, I was called. You know, my parents, they're theatrical themselves, even though they're so not from the arts. Like, my dad worked in a factory, and my mom, we call her the vampire. She was a phlebotomist, so she was just drawing people's blood. And yet, you know, things like going to church or going to see a Tyler Perry play were so transformative for me. Like, those spaces allowed me to see just the kind of inherent theatricality in different parts of life, and particularly in different parts of Black life. So, you know, I grew up knowing that I was going to be a storyteller by hook or by crook. I didn't know if I was going to be a journalist. I didn't know if I was going to be a novelist, but I just knew that I was going to use words to heal. Mm-hmm. Words were going to be my weapon. So, you know, fast forward, I get to college, and I remember I had caught the acting bug. So, as everybody, you know, try to get a little acting now, you know, they think they can be Denzel Washington and all that. So,
you got the vaccine for that one, though, I see. Like that one you've got right away.
Exactly, right. So I remember we were given an assignment in our acting class, and our teacher told us to go to the library and pick a play that had a scene with you and your scene partner's type, physical type, whatever type. So it ended up being me and a wonderful actress named Kelly McCreary, who has been on Grey's Anatomy forever now. But, we were slugging it out, at Columbia, trying to figure out, what our play was going to be that we were going to bring to our class. And so we went to the library. And I remember us pulling down all these plays, and we really couldn't find anything for two young African-American women. So I remember us going back to the teacher, and we asked her, like, do you have any suggestions? Like, you've been teaching for 20 years. I'm sure you know of a play that has a scene with two young Black women in it. 10 seconds went by. 20 seconds went by.
Oh my God.
40 seconds went by. And our teacher could not think of a play that had a scene for two young Black women. And so in that moment, I was like, I'm going to write those plays then. Wow. So I shifted my lane, and I started reading a lot. And the unfortunate thing is that it wasn't like there weren't plays out there. It was the fact that she didn't know them that was the problem. Yeah. So I ended up going outside of that ivory tower. And I remember like schlepping on down to the drama bookshop. And, that's where I got exposed to Lynn Nottage and Suzanne Laurie Parks and like Alice Childress, like, just this huge canon of women, particularly Black women, who were writing those plays. And so I just was dreaming about becoming a part of that sisterhood eventually. So, but it was that moment of not seeing myself on those shelves at Columbia University is what kind of shifted my perspective and really pushed me into the cold waters of trying to be a dramatist.
But what I love about that story is there was obvious frustration that you then turned to hope and positivity. Like, I'm going to solve this problem by doing this myself. I'm going to work on, I'm going to write something for myself rather than just get angry about it and not do anything about it. You didn't frustrate yourself to inaction. You frustrated yourself to action.
Yeah. And it's that thing of like, how selfishness can be altruistic sometimes. Like, I want to write something for myself and for Kelly. And it ended up being like, no, now you have written many, many plays that so many people have been in and have started their careers from. So that to me, the ability to figure out how to turn negativity into positivity is definitely a gift. And real talk, I don't do it all the time. Believe me, there's sometimes I be convention. But at the end of the day, I do think that's the way forward. You just gotta move forward with the light, because everything can, be depressing sometimes, particularly, in an industry as hard as this. Yeah.
What I also think is cool is I'm sure that now if there was a young Black woman at Columbia that went to a professor to ask, your name would come up right away.
I hope so. I'm like, I got plays for days. So, yeah, I mean, that was the dream, right? To be able to put on the show. Yeah.
So you went from Columbia. Let me get this straight. You went from Columbia to Harvard and then to Juilliard.
Yeah. And back to back. I was like, I ain't playing. I'm just going. I'm like, I'm gonna get some school.
I mean, that's some debt as well. I mean, there's a serious education there. So tell me, of all those, and you don't even have to tell me which one, because I don't want one mad at us for the other. What's the number one thing you learned in your education of those three things? The number one takeaway that you might still learn today about writing a play?
About writing a play, or just in education? I guess
both. Let's do both.
I think in terms of education is that the learning never stops. The cool thing about Columbia is that I do think that a lot of schools kind of teach you what to think, and Columbia was like, no, you're going to learn how to ask questions. You're going to learn how to analyze. So we're not teaching you what to think. We're teaching you how to think. We're teaching you how to tear things apart. And I think that was so important, to come into the world with an education that I could actually question. And I think, particularly when you are a woman, when you are a person of color, oftentimes you are kind of force fed a perspective that often denigrates you. And so I was able to, look at Plato and Nietzsche and flip it and subvert it and use it to kind of free my own mind. It's almost like using the master's tools to break apart the master's house. So Columbia, I would say, really, really taught me that. And the thing about playwriting is that thing of you are enough. What you have gone through, your lived experience, your way of thinking about story, that is actually what you should be aiming for. Yes, it's cool to be influenced by Shakespeare. Yes, it's cool to be influenced by August Wilson. It's cool to be influenced by, people who are kind of your living legends, like Lynn Nottage, like Suzanne Laurie Parks. But at the end of the day, what do you have to say? And I must say, I learned that at every institution I got an education at.
And your first play out of Juilliard was The Mountaintop, right?
No, it's crazy. Yes, it was.
I mean,
as a matter of fact, I didn't even go to graduation because I had to fly to London, to start rehearsal.
Sorry, everybody, I can't be at graduation because I got my first rehearsal for my West End play. That will win the Olympics.
On the West End then. It was, no.
Oh, so tell us about the journey.
So the journey of The Mountaintop has been so interesting. The Lark Play Development Center was so integral to the development of that play. And I remember I did a workshop with my dear friend and genius, Dominique Moruso. She actually played Camille. So everybody be like, who originated the role of Camille? I'd be like, it's Dominique, shoot. But the tricky thing was, we weren't able to use any American actors in this a London production. And that production started in a theater called Theater 503, which was a small 66-seat theater above a pub. And so the director, James Staker, I had met him when he was in America on a Fulbright. And we had kept in touch. And I remember him emailing me randomly. He was like, oh, what are you working on? I was like, oh, I'm working on this play. You want to read it? And so I just sent it to him. And within a few weeks, he was like, I convinced this Theater 503, to produce it. And so, like I said, I didn't go to graduation at Juilliard. I went straight into rehearsal. And for 3 weeks with the amazing David Harewood and Lorraine Burroughs, we just had such an amazing time figuring out this play. The unfortunate thing about The Mountaintop, which is about the last night of Dr. Martin Luther King, was that because it had this very warts and all portrayal of Dr. King, a lot of people felt some type of way in America about the play. They were like, I don't know if we should be seeing Dr. King peeing. I don't know if we should be seeing Dr. King cursing, smoking, and oh my God, flirting. Oh, no. So this opportunity to have this production in a culture that did not see him as this saint was super important, because they were able to judge the play just by looking at the play. It had everything to do with the craft and the character development, all of that work, versus like, oh my God, look at what she's doing to Dr. King. We should, just cane her for what she did to Dr. King. So I was so blessed to have had that kind of, I would say, laboratory experience. But what was crazy was that it immediately caught the eye of some amazing producers, the legendary Sonia Friedman, Jean Demanian, Talia Pellman. They all came together and moved the play to the West End. And, beyond that, it had such an amazing run. I didn't even get a chance to go to the opening of the play on the West End because I was busy in Uganda falling in love, which is a whole nother story. So when I eventually came to see the play, I sat next to, oh my God, I'm forgetting her name. Elda. Oh my God. What's her name? A famous actress. Oh my God, I feel horrible. But anyway, a really famous actress who really loved to play. And I was just like, is it Elda Staunton? Am I saying her name correctly? Staunton. Anyway, but it was
Mary
just,
will do some Googling.
yeah, we can Google like Imelda Staunton.
Yes,
The country version of the pronunciation.
it's okay because I could bet you $1 million she's not watching. So
Yeah. But anyway, and just to be like, I'm the playwright. I wrote that, and she was like, "What? This is so amazing!" She didn't say it like that. Like, "What? It's just amazing." So, so yeah, it was so transformative to be able to see how people who were so outside of America, it just embraced this play, and for it to go on to win the Olivier, it transformed my life,
yeah,
obviously, and pretty much everyone who touched it. So just so proud of that moment. And it all started above a pub in South London at Theatre 503.
Amazing. And now flash forward, so you've written a bunch of plays since, and then of course you have Tina,
Yes,
a musical. Was this your first musical?
it was.
So what was that like, from going like a playwright all by yourself in your room, like I'm just writing whatever I want to write, and now you're like one of 100 people with people telling you it should be this, it should be this, it should be this, it should be this.
Well, guess what? That really didn't happen. There was no, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. And I think it had a lot to do with the producer, which was it is Tally Pellman.
Right.
Was on the Mountaintop, crazily enough.
Right.
That's how I even got looped into the project. She had already sat down with Tina, and they knew that they wanted to do the musical interpretation of her life. And Tina very specifically asked, like, do you have a Black woman from the South who can work on this?
And Tally was like, yes, I do.
I have somebody. So I was quickly pulled into the project, and must I say, just once again, one of those things where you're kind of like doing your own thing. You're living your life. You're writing your plays. You're trying to, make money, survive in New York City. And then you get this call that once again, your life is transformed. I was flown to Switzerland to sit down with Tina and have her tell her story to me. And I remember it like it was yesterday, just walking in and seeing her sitting at her glass table by the lake, and just being overjoyed and overwhelmed that I was stepping into a space where I was going to be given the responsibility of telling an icon story. And I remember all the nerves kind of just, slipped away when I was like, Tina! And she was like, Katori! It was an instantaneous sister connection. I think it has a lot to do with, us both being from Tennessee. And we were just like, kicking like sisters do. And it was amazing. And she was just so honest, and she was so raw. I mean, she's been through so much. And so I think that truth and that authenticity is something that you can't necessarily teach people. And I was able to kind of bring the truth of my lived experience as this Black woman from the South, and match her lived experience, and really dig into some dark places and spaces that she really didn't want to dig into. And so I think the big conundrum was always like, how are we going to tell this story that is very traumatic, right? Very complicated, very dark in the musical form, because oftentimes when people go to a musical, and oftentimes a jukebox musical, right? They just want to hear the songs and go home. Like, we don't need you to be showing us no domestic abuse and all. We'll need all that. But it was important because that is her story. And quite frankly, I think she agreed with this opportunity to be so unapologetic about the truth and her journey so that she could inspire people. It's that thing of poison being turned into medicine for other people. Like, she lived a very, very tough life. And everything that she went through, she was able to just lay it all out there, and it rolled into a story, and quite frankly has been rolled into her music. She didn't write but what she wrote like one song her entire career, Nutbush City Limits, but she was always singing songs and picking songs that were definitely a reflection and echoing what she was going through at that moment in time. So weirdly enough, it actually wasn't hard to use her catalog to really tell her life story. And we had this kind of rule where we were going to be really anachronistic. We weren't going to just use songs that were from the 80s. In the 80s, we were going to flip everything around. And so you hear, a song, we start the show off, in the early 50s. And like we remix Nutbush City Limits into a gospel number, because quite frankly, that's where it descends from. It descends from that well that came up in the cotton fields. And so to be able to kind of show the musicology of not only her catalog, but just American music in general, by showing how all of these songs are connected and can flip into different genres, was super important. And we figured out how to use songs that people were like, you'll never be able to use that song. I was like, watch me. So we don't need another hero. Like, they're like, how did you get that song in? I was like, ha, 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 ha.
Something tells me don't challenge Katori Hall, because she's gonna stand up.
So yeah. Oh, that's one of my favorite moments. So transformative. Oh, Adrienne Warren was a dream to work with. And early on, she was brought in early on. We had a round table of I think maybe the second draft of the book, and it was like 10 a.m. and we got to Rolling on the River, I think it was. Yes. And she just tore that song up and every other song that we had laid out into the script. So I was like, well, that's her 10 a.m. throat. Can we imagine what the 7 or 8 o'clock throat after an intense warm up will be like, night after night after night. So very early on, she proved to us that she was the Tina that we were looking for.
How often, or when you get actors like her, or even on other plays, how do they shape your plays or your shows? Do you allow them into the collaborative process?
It's interesting. So with Adrienne specifically, I think at the time we were trying to figure out how many Tinas are going to be in this show. Is it going to be one Tina, or is it going to be 5 Tinas? Because can one person do all that is required for this role? And we were just thinking, we ain't going to find somebody who can act her ass off, sing her face off, and dance like Adrienne Warren. And yet,
Yes, there she is.
There she is. And so very quickly, we decided not to do a kind of, I call it cubist version of Tina's life, where he's like very kind of experimental and modern. We felt like this was going to be a journey where we stayed with one actress, one woman, and we saw her transform and go through terrible downs and amazing highs. I quite frankly thought that was the best journey to take an audience on, instead of kind of switching out people. It's like, no, the Tina, Adrienne, becomes the avatar for the audience, and they get to just fall and fly with her every step of the way. And they care. They care because we're using that parenthesis of time and spinning it all on one person. And so she was just able to deliver the naive moments when she was young, before she even met Ike, to the tough moments where she became the lioness and was able to lead him and then take charge of her career and battle, racist, executives. So it was so important, I think, to our process, the fact that we were able to see an actress who could do that entire journey early on.
So plays, musicals, and now a hit TV show as well in the midst of all this.
I
So-
know, and I had 2 babies.
2 babies.
2.
1, 6. How old's the other one?
3. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So how do you manage all your time?
I don't.
Like,
I don't manage.
well, who manages it for you? Because you're getting it all done somehow.
I have amazing people who help. But it's interesting. Like I don't have, and I probably should have gotten a nanny, but I didn't. I should have, but that didn't happen. So I will say that it's a mixture of having married really well, and not well as in, oh my God, my husband got $25 million. That's not what the situation is. It's the fact that my husband is so supportive of my career and completely loves being with his children. And so those moments when I had to go to London to work on the Tina musical, he would stay at home with these 2 little people by himself for a week, right? Or I would ask them, like, can I bring my family with me? So kind of constantly having conversations with producers who know that I'm very family oriented, and just making sure that they knew that and they were comfortable with having a woman on board who feels that her family is so important and wants to fold my family into everything that I do. I also just have a really amazing assistant who can actually like be me when I can't be me, like call West Elm and like get a discount on that couch because they're like 50 months late on it.
Is this the assistant that's hanging out backstage with us right
Yeah,
now?
he's so
Why
good.
doesn't she come on? Will she come on and say hello? Will he come on and say hello?
Come on, you should so.
I could see him back there. His screen is hidden.
Please,
Ian.
please. I'm one time.
He's saying no.
No.
Good assistant. He wants his boss to have all the spotlight. Do you have a structured writing time? Do you have a time of day that you're like
No, I don't.
Right when it comes to you, just like I got some time.
It's a mixture. I write when I have to. I write to get away from my children. I write when I'm inspired. I write when I'm not inspired. And Ian could tell you this if he would come on, but I am actually constantly writing in my head. And so I will just, write a little note on a napkin. Like I'm weird that way. I love you. They're asking if I love them. I love you.
Oh, look, Ian is here with us. Ian, we've heard so much about you. We just had to bring you on. Welcome to the live stream.
Hello. Hello. Well, I'm just here to attest that Katori is always writing. She writes more than anyone I know. I don't know how she does it.
Well, because of you, apparently. Because you manage your time so well.
You do.
Wow. Okay, with that, adieu, or however you say it. Bye-bye.
I'm going to get in trouble for that. So tell me about the difference between writing for the stage and writing for the screen. Is there a difference? How did you adapt to it? You adapted your own play for this.
I think it depends on which screen. I think both for TV and film, there is the need to embrace visuals way more. And obviously, as playwrights, we know that we can paint an entire world through language and through people speaking. And like, Mountaintop is 2 people in a room talking for 90 minutes. And so I don't get to do that on TV. Right. They're just like, come on, like, scenes could literally be 10 seconds long. So for me, it was shifting to a place that felt more impressionistic and more visual, but still linked in terms of narrative. And it happened, it did not happen overnight. It was a lot of trial and error, many drafts of many different scripts. But I eventually figured out what my particular style is. Now, I will say that my style is very dialogue heavy, or rather, I wouldn't say dialogue heavy. I would say dialogue appreciative, especially because I often write in the dialect of the South particularly the Black South, whether it's, the lingo in Hot Wing King, or there's a lot of slanguage in P Valley. So that is baked into my work, whether it's TV and film. But I will say the transition was super tough, and it just took some time and a lot of failure, quite frankly, to be able to get the right balance for, like I said, my particular style of writing for TV.
And it's been ordered for a second season already.
Yes, we are about to go into a room. It's so exciting. I am over the moon to be able to, just dig deeper in the characters. Oh, look at my friend Clint.
Yeah, there's Mr. Ramos. Hi, Clint.
Clint. Don't play, Clint. Yeah, it was, like I said, hard, but so satisfying to be able to play in all these different mediums when it comes to storytelling, and the fact that I'll be able to tell this story, hopefully for some years. That's what I'm most excited about, because, with a play, you have this, parenthesis of time that you get to deal with. But TV, I'm like, oh my God, we get to hang out with Uncle Clifford for 10 years. We don't see. So
I love it. Just a few parting words for everybody out there. I mean, we talked a little bit about this, but this has been a tough time for a lot of people, right? Mm-hmm. For a lot of people. What would you say to theater makers out there, or anyone that's having one of those rainy days right now, on how they can keep going, keep their head up, and keep creating? There's so many writers we have, so many theater makers that may be having a hard time doing that. What would you say to them?
I would say intermissions don't last always. There will be a second act. And then there's some shows that have 2 intermissions, right? Because, things are unpredictable. So maybe we have to wait on a third act. But know that, the play that we're all a part of, which is the play of life, is being written, and that we actually have quite a lot of control. So I will say, vote. If you don't vote, get your mama and your daddy and everybody else to vote. Like, get as many people out there to the polls, whether you got to give people Ubers or walk them to the polls yourself. But at this point in time, I think, in the words of John Lewis, like, voting is one of the most powerful tools of protest that we have in this nation. And so if we don't want this intermission to be forever, our ass need to vote.
You're an incredible talent and an incredible inspiration, and I'm so glad to get to know you, even if on a screen.
I know.
So I can't wait to spend some time with you in person, and someday I hope to be lucky enough to be able to work with you. So thank you so much for being in here and inspiring so many of us, including me.
Oh, no problem. And thanks so much for having me on. This was a pleasure.
My pleasure. We will see you soon.
See you soon.
Bye. Bye, Ian. That was Katori Hall and Ian. Everybody with a surprise visit, who I don't think he was too happy with me. Anyway, thanks so much to Katori for joining us. Do go, when Broadway comes back, go see Tina. And in the meantime, go watch P Valley, based on her play, which was also just, there it is. There's an image of it right there. Just renewed for a second season. So it looks like she's going to have another long runner on her hands. Thanks to her for joining us. Thanks to all of you for being here. Next week, don't forget, we have John Logan with us next week. Next week, John Logan, another writer, will tell us all his tips and tricks for success and strategies for getting through this. By the way, if you enjoy conversations like this, if you enjoy conversations with A-list theater makers on how they're getting through it and how they're making theater and how they're going to make theater in the new world, we are just four weeks away from my annual Theater Makers Summit, 4 weeks away, with some unbelievable A-listers that are speaking. And she doesn't know it yet, but maybe we'll ask Katori Hall to speak as well. Who knows? We've got Chris Jackson is doing our keynote. We've got everyone, Tom Schumacher, the head of Disney, Asmeret, Tom Kidd, Paul Taswell, like all these unbelievable people are speaking. And listen, I'll admit it. Many of them are speaking because Broadway shut down. They don't have anything else to do. But we're going to take advantage of that, and they're going to be there for you. So go and grab a ticket. Mary will throw the link into the comments here. And hopefully you'll see us there for that conversation about how to make theater in the new world. Go check it out. We always leave you with something to make you smile. This is a sweet one. Won't make you smile right off the bat because it's a little bit sad. It's called I Miss New York. It's reimagined songs from an unmade bed. B.D. Wong in a beautiful, beautiful sung and video treatment of this tune. Stick around right now and watch it. Don't forget about the Actors Fund. Thanks so much for joining us, and thanks again for the amazing Katori Hall. See you next week.
Miss New York, the feeling worsens every year. I miss New York, and I live here. Where is that place, that dazzling place I used to know? That breathless rush, where did it go? I miss the nights of getting home at 5 a.m. and many friends. It's true, I do miss them. I miss New York and would return there if I could, but I'm afraid it's lost for good. Some will say that there's a darker truth to this. Some will say it's really just my youth I miss, and that may well be the case, I know. Even so, I miss New York. Whatever happened to Times Square? I miss New York. I still